Hello everybody, I'm Richard from RSEV, and this behind me is a Tesla Model X Plaid. Now I'm in the UK, but we don't actually get these cars still in the UK. When will we get them? We don't know, but our friends at T&E Magazine and Custom Tesla have brought this car over from Germany for us to spend the day testing it. So there's a couple of videos in this one. There's a lot to talk about. So let's break it down into, I think, 2 videos. We'll see how we go. But let's first of all give you a good look around the car and point out all the differences, because although it looks quite similar to the old Model X, there are a lot of changes, and especially on the inside, there's plenty of stuff there to show you. And then we're going to also be testing efficiency and charging speed, so real world UK driving, and we've done some drag racing with this car already. So in terms of performance testing, we've done some of that as well. So let's get into this first video and give you a good look around this Model X Plaid. Let's start at the front. The headlights look much the same. But when you see them on, they are actually slightly different. But I'm not actually seeing the matrix function like we've seen in the Model S and the newer Model 3s and Ys. So is there matrix functionality to this? I don't know. They are different, but they look the same. I don't think they've got the matrix function. This one certainly doesn't. So the headlights on this are okay, but again, behind kind of the times with a few. Moving on, the front bumper is slightly different, so it's got a different shape here. It does look a little bit different to the previous model. This is a 20-inch wheel option. I like this design, it looks nice. This is currently on Pirelli winter tyres at the moment, so our testing today is on these Pirelli 265/45 R20 Winter 2 Scorpions. They are wider at the back, 275/45 20s. So the wing mirror caps on this particular car have actually been wrapped, so these would normally be white. But this black window surround here and on the camera lenses, that is standard. And then look, this is the charging port here now. It's kind of this double hinge flap, and now we've got integrated CCS. Although I can't see a little light. I would love to see, some cars have it, some don't, a little port light here, so when it's pitch black you can see what you're putting it into. So with that CCS built in, it now has faster charging speed, 250 kilowatts. So I can attest to that. We've actually just seen 255 here, but there'll be more about charging speed in another video coming up. Right, so at the back here, all looks very familiar. So now we do have this black trim across here, still got the chrome badge, but this trim across here is black. We've got the plaid sticker there, and then the boot will look very similar. But down below here, this diffuser is slightly different. So again, you can pick apart a few differences, but this diffuser is different. The boot space looks pretty similar at first glance, but it is a little bit different. So this is a 6-seater. The back seats are raised up at the moment. They fold down in a similar way with a little release button on the side there. But then we come to here. Now this space under here is a little bit smaller. Something's changed here probably to accommodate the motors. So it's changed the profile of this boot space, but it's still very, very large. And what you do notice now, it comes right into the sides here. And I've got some little panels there. That drops down very low in there. And then off to this side, we've got a little cubby hole with a load net there. And tucked up in here is a 12-volt socket. You ready, Gints?
I am.
All right. As I said, in a spacious boot here, this is all very different. So we've got some furry line bits everywhere, even around the latch mechanism here. A nice furry lining around here, which then comes into some Alcantara sections here. And a little light up here, actually. Ooh, build quality Tesla. See, this alignment here just isn't really very good, is it? Now, this is a 150,000 euro car. And a panel gap like that, well, I think by now we should be seeing those improvements, so that's a bit of a shame. So they're starting the back row here. Now I remember testing the 7-seat Model Y, and that was impossible in the back row. The 6-seat Model X's, I think the space in here is probably similar to before, although it's not the most spacious, but I'm in. This is the official route through, but being a 6-seater, you normally kind of come through the middle. Let's put this seat back here and just see how much space I'm left with in the back. Getting concerned about my knees. Okay, so I'm 6 foot tall, but my head is kind of right on this bar here, so I could do a short journey, and the advantage of having the 6-seater is there's a bit of room to stretch out my left leg there, but I have to say, it's a little bit tight, and the cut on my head isn't from this car, I will say, but yeah, shorter journeys, but at 6 foot tall, not a massively long journey in the back, but it's definitely better than the Model Y. We have just spotted here, by the way, we've got some little hooks that come down so you can hang your suit on it. But let's move forward to the middle row here, because there's a bit more to show you here. So in here, with this seat quite a long way back, I'm not doing too bad. I've got okay legroom, but it could be easy to move this seat forward a little bit. And I can move this middle row forwards and backwards. I could come forward a little bit, give some more row behind me and such like. The space in here is about as good as you get in a car, loads of headroom. We've got different changes to the door panel, so I'll cover that in a minute. You do feel like you're up against this door panel a little bit, so you can lean on this quite comfortably, but what it does sort of feel like is you've got this big kind of gap in the middle. I'd kind of like to see like an armrest come down or something like that, just to help with that. It feels a bit lopsided. But anyway, we've got a couple of USB-A ports here and also just behind me here. And then, of course, we've got this center screen here as well. So as I touch this, this goes brighter, and on here, I can adjust the temperature for the rear seats. I can then move the airflow around a little bit as well, like this. That looks very snazzy, doesn't it? Then we've got our heated seats that we can turn on and off here. Music controls, and then we've also got Netflix, Twitch, YouTube. I'll bring this up. Oh, look at this. This is a great channel, Gints. This is pretty cool. All very quick and easy to use. So that's good. It's cool to have, isn't it? We like that. But I guess children would happily sit and watch that. It does feel like if I sat here, I'd struggle because it's kind of like low down. You'd be moving your legs around like this. The seat is kind of covering it. You can't kind of pull this out or tilt it at all. It feels like to be useful as a screen to watch, it needs to be just higher up, really. But nonetheless, a couple of kids in their child seats might well help them with the long journeys there. So in here, all very good, all very lovely. Little change up here. I don't seem to remember there being speakers in this roof center console section here before, so I think those are new. We do have a new sound system in this car, which includes noise reduction, so it's probably all part of that. All nicely trimmed in Alcantara in here, I have to say. So all quite reasonable. So now should we go to the exciting bit up the front. So we've got the power doors still like we had before, but there is a slight difference in that the motors seem to be always engaged. So with the previous cars, you could just kind of pull them a little bit and they'd come in. I mean, I can push the brake pedal and it will close. I can close it from the screen, but the motors are always engaged. It's slightly different to the other cars. There's some really nice trimmings on the door here. So we've got a mixture of materials. We've got the white trim, carbon trim, and then some nice fabric here. Some nice big chunky door handles, and then the release buttons like we've seen in the Model 3 and the Model Y. So it's much nicer trimmings. It feels nicer, it feels nice and chunky and much more solid than before. Then of course we come across to the obvious on the inside here. We've got a Yolk steering wheel and a very different dashboard here and this different screen. So this is now a 17-inch landscape screen and it's tilted towards me, but I can adjust this. Have a look at this. So I could tilt it like this, all electronically. That's pretty snazzy. So it can go flat or it can go out to your way. So, and then in here, this, by the way, is all super quick and responsive, lovely graphics. I mean, just look at this. This is fantastic. It really is good. This is great to use as well. As ever, Tesla software is absolutely on point. But again, what's different to this compared to the 3 and the Y is we've got these tiles that you can move around like this. So this is where I can project that through to the rear as well, by the look of it. And then you can also bring up trip data like this. And again, we've got this new version of Tesla software which tells you exactly what everything used during your journey. So how much was used for climate control, how much energy you lost due to elevation changes. Let's move that down. Let's move that across. See how nice and easy this is. It's just a fantastic thing to use. The controls here, when you bring up the control menus, not too dissimilar. You will find your way around it if you're familiar to a Tesla. So we've got electronic steering and mirror adjustment, driver profile memories, of course, opening and closing the rear doors. But yeah, this sort of, let me fold this screen back into the center here. How's that for the light? I love that, that's great. It's really good. We've got drag strip mode in this one, so we made use of this earlier as we filmed some other stuff with Carwell there. On the drag strip, so check out their channel. What it did seem to do, by the way, is we went to the preheating, does seem much faster than the old Model X performance cars. They can take an hour to do a full preheat. This was much quicker. I think we had it for about 20 minutes from a really cold start this morning. In here, the suspension menu, this seems to be similar to any of the Raven cars. So if you had the original Model X's, you had air suspension like we have now. But the later cars, what we call the Ravens from 2019 onwards, had adaptive damping. So again, we've got that. You can choose if you want your ride to be softer and firmer. So that all seems, I think, much the same. The ride comfort we think is the same from driving it today. Okay, so I've put my foot on the brake now, and there's no drive selector stalk anymore. So you see this part of the screen did come up here. So here I can select reverse or drive forward on the screen here. neutral and park. Now we've also got buttons that they're not illuminated down here at the moment, but if the screen is off, apparently you do get your park, drive and reverse buttons along this bar as well. Also, what it's meant to do is kind of guess if you're going to go forwards or going to go backwards. So if you get in the car and there's a wall in front of you, it should default that you need to reverse really. So let's see if we can figure that bit out a little bit more. But as it stands, you press forwards to drive like that. And then of course now we've got the Yolk steering wheel. So let me just put that in park there. This does take a bit of getting used to. So when these do eventually come to the UK, you will have the option of a Yolk steering wheel or a circular steering wheel. The Yolk does fit really well with this screen here. It's a very open layout. It does feel pretty cool to hold, so I like it. But it does take a lot of getting used to. Particularly we have roundabouts. One thing they don't have in the States where they've been developing this car really is roundabouts. You don't see them very often. Now you indicate and you go around your junction and then straighten up, that's fine. But what we have to do in Europe is go around a roundabout, indicate one way and then indicate that you're going to come off, and then you kind of have to be used to kind of doing this kind of thing, do you know what I mean? So that's not quite as simple. But with the latest software, actually when you're on the motorway and you just tap to indicate, you change lanes. Once you're in the other lane, it automatically cancels itself. So that's good, but it's a roundabout thing that's a bit more difficult. We've then got light controls and the horn here. So you can't do this for the horn. You can't go, ah, in anger. You have to go, ah, sorry, and beep like that. This scroll wheel here activates the cruise control and autopilot. So you click this when you're driving along. Washers here, and then voice recognition here, volume controls here. So having been driving this, I've driven one with the Yolk before, but then today a little bit more. It is cool. It's one of those, it's Marmite. Some people are just going to want the round steering wheel. Some people are going to have the Yolk. The Yolk does feel good on the drag strip. You feel like you've got real kind of fighter pilot control of this. And then when you're cruising along, you might have your hands like this as well. Quite relaxing, although I'm not sure quite how safe it is if you suddenly had a blowout or something. But what would I have? I think I'd have the round wheel. I like trying new things, so I might do it just for the kind of intrigue of it. Let me know in the comments below, would you choose the round wheel or are you going to be brave and go for the Yolk? It does take a bit of getting used to, but there's something quite cool about it as well. So I think maybe I'd go for Yolk and then be annoyed. If I was going to go on track with the car, I'd want a round wheel, but I think you get used to the Yolk. I think for the novelty and because it's new, maybe I will go for the Yolk. Anyway, I haven't ordered one by the way, but I'm getting more and more tempted as more I touch this car and drive it. So up the front then we've got that binnacle there. Some incredible charging speeds as displayed here when you're charging. I saw 255 kilowatts on this car today. And you can see trip information on the main screen, and I think you can bring it up on here as well. You've got your drive, reverse, neutral display, your seat display. So as I engage drive now, of course that display will change there and I accelerate, and then you get your autopilot visuals as well. Up the front here, this has all changed of course on the dashboard, and then we've got this big bar across the front here which includes, I would say, a number of speakers, because this now has a 22 speaker system. Is that right, Gintz?
Oh, I'm excited to hear that.
Yeah, so we're going to be testing the sound system. We've had a quick play of it. It does sound incredibly powerful. You can really feel the bass in it. It does seem incredibly good. So when I'm in the radio, if I go to settings, this is what we've got now as well. Active noise reduction. It does the opposite of the noise.
Correct, so it listens the noise.
Yeah.
And then reverts complete opposite, so it kills the noise.
And do you think it's quieter in this car, Gintz, than the previous Model X?
Yeah.
I think so as well.
Yeah.
I'll just drop that window there by leaning on that. We've got double glazing now, by the way, so double laminated glass on the front and the back side windows there as well. If I come to here in the climate control menu, of course this is all different for Model X now. We've got much more like the Model 3 and the Model Y, in fact just about identical. Now let's come to the center console a bit more. So we've got two phone holders at the front here like we used to with the Model 3 and the Model Y, and this is also where you put your key card now if you're using the key card. We've got the console here again like the 3 and Y. Now the owner's not going to like this. I'm going to open this up, and he did admit it's a bit of a rubbish holder. They've driven over from across Europe last few days, so I've got a couple of compartments to open and close here, but I won't look at that too much because he's been in the car road tripping, so understandably has some stuff in there. I'm the same. And then you've got the big console under the armrest here as well, which is good. So basically really quite similar to the Model 3 and the Model Y. And it hasn't taken too much, has it, Tessa, really? Just a couple of nice different material trim changes, bit of fabric in the doors, and you've got a much better premium feeling interior. Big door bins here as well. So also we've got a little camera that sits up above the rear view mirror here now, which we haven't had in the X until now. We've had it in the 3 and the Y, and this can be used if you use something like dog mode. So you've got your dogs in the car's locked, of course the climate control's running. There's a message on here to say to other people, don't worry, it's 20 degrees in the car, the dog is perfectly comfortable. But now you can, even from your app, look at the live camera footage of what's going on with your dog inside the car. A bit like a nanny cam, but a dog cam. So let's mention the seats, because they might look the same, but there's a few differences. Firstly, they're a slimmer profile apparently. We've also got vented seats are back again, which is good to see. We've got this dark trim here on the Plaid, but it's silver on the non-Plaid. Can't even call them long range, just the X. And apparently up here somewhere, some speakers which are part of that noise cancelling system I mentioned. So the seats do have a lot going on with them. I think they're even clever enough to, they weigh you as you're in the car. It doesn't come up on the screen, don't worry, but it weighs you, and even that your weight affects how the airbags will deploy in the event of an accident. So clever seats as well. Here now, and this build quality, it feels excellent. I can't fault it. This car's already been a working car for a number of weeks, put to good use, and the owner loves it. The front space looks much the same. We think it's slightly different here because we've got a different profile to this front liner, which is then also a different material. But again, a big, lovely, wide, deep, usable space under the bonnet there. Sorry, frunk. So there we go. It might look fairly similar outside, but there's plenty of changes going on with the new Model X. So if you've got one of these in order and have done for the last couple of years, I think you've got a lot to look forward to. They've made a good product even better. It is a fantastic thing. So what a nice interior. It doesn't take too much to bring it up to standard, does it? Right, anyway, we're going to continue driving this car now. I've been driving it all day. We're going to continue driving it. We're measuring efficiency, real world range and charging speed, and that's going to be in the next video coming soon. But in the meantime, I hope that was useful just to show you some of these changes in a bit more detail. Hey everyone, thanks for watching our videos. If you like our content and want to see more, don't forget to not only subscribe but also hit the bell icon for notifications so you don't miss any new videos as they're uploaded. Plus, we're also on Instagram, just look up R Simons or RSEV. We're on Facebook and Twitter. So lots of news, stories and things as we go on each one of those channels.